Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Digital Benelux FP&A Board meeting today. Today we'll be talking about how to build winning financial planning and analysis FP&A teams. My name is Hans Gobin. I am FP&A Board and FP&A Trends Ambassador, and today I'll be facilitating this meeting. And just to let you know, we will be joined by, or are joined by nearly 300 people, 60% from Benelux, the remainder from other countries. So please enjoy the meeting. So moving on, what's on the agenda for us today? Today we'll be talking about the key FP&A team roles for the new normal, digitalization journey and implications for FP&A teams, a case study, adapting FP&A teams to the new normal. So how are we adapting FP&A teams to the new normal? And then finally, we'll hear about how technology can help us build those FP&A teams. We will do some conclusions and recommendation, and finally, we will do our Q&A session. So lots of exciting questions, as well as questions and answers, as well as insight coming from our panelists and yourself. Quickly, just taking you through what have we got, what have we done in the geographies before? It's for you to read. So there's quite a few meetings we've done, so please have a look at it in your own time. It is now a good time for me to start introducing our panelists. So members of the panel, if you can put your webcam on and come off mute, and I'll start by introducing James there. James Haley is VP Finance and European CFO at Nidec ACIM division. And today, James will tell us about the key FP&A team roles for the new normal. James, very excited to have you on board.
Yes, many thanks, Hans. Excited to be here and looking forward to the session.
Fantastic. Thank you, James. Our second member of the panel is Scott Campbell, who's head of Digital COE, Center of Excellence, Finance FP&A at Philips. And Scott will take us through digitalization journey and the implication for FP&A teams, a case study within Philips itself. Scott, very excited to have you with us today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me today. Really great topic. So looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Scott. Our third member of the panel is Bartosz Obojski, Director of FP&A at Esko. And Bartosz will tell us about how he has adapted his FP&A teams to the new normal. Bartosz, great to have you with us today.
Hello, good afternoon, Hans. Good afternoon to all the participants. Thanks for having me here. I'm looking forward to an exciting 1.5 hours.
Thank you very much, Bartosz. And last but not least, we've got Eva van der Zaan, who's Vice President Strategy and Solutions Management at SAP. And of course, Eva will take the technology angle and tell us how technology is helping us build the FP&A team. Eva, very excited to have you on board with us today.
Yeah, I'm excited as well, Hans, and thanks for having me. Couldn't be a better moment, yeah? So very much attention for planning and financial processes these days, so happy to be on board.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great panel of members with great insight awaiting you very, very shortly. Members, if you can switch your webcam on, I've got a few housekeeping slides, and then we will start our presentations. So what's next? Of course, FP&A Trends Group, today we're trying to bring together Amsterdam and Brussels, but of course we're joined by other countries as well. We're now in 27 cities, 16 countries, 4 continents. Also to highlight that we are now doing best practice workshops and FP&A consultancy on the demand of our members itself. So what is the Digital FP&A Board? A very quick reminder, it is 90 minutes, so please stay with us for the whole 90 minutes. We have got 4 polling questions. We want you to give us your insight as to what you're doing within your own organization. There will be a Q&A session. Please ask questions via the chat box. You can start from now or wait after each presentation, but please direct it to which presenter you would like it to answer. Please network with us via LinkedIn. The presentation that I'm going through today is available for you to download in handouts. or you will receive a copy of the recording and presentation within 2 days after the meeting. Also, when I close the meeting, there's a very, very brief survey session, which is about a minute. So please stay behind and give us a little bit of a hint of how we did, but also more importantly, what would you like to hear in your next session? So moving on, our technology partner for today is SAP. As we all know, one of the world's leading providers of modern FP&A solutions. So thank you, SAP, for sponsoring the event today. Just before we start our presentation, I've got a few slides of introduction. So I would like to take you through a few slides. And the first slide is from our FP&A board maturity model, a paper which we wrote in June, which has evolved since 2016 and has insight from all of our FP&A board meetings around the world, but also has got our polling questions and answers and insight from those, as well as leading organizations being interviewed. So I'd just like to highlight here on the leading stage, what are organizations doing as far as skill set is concerned? So if you look at leadership, promoting change, analytical based, multidiscipline team approach, analysts, architect, data science skills, which we will discuss shortly. If you also now look at the business partnering, it's much more around collaboration, being the trusted advisor. The softer skills, again, we will talk about all of this shortly. And also, this is half of the maturity board model. As you can see, the other half talks about processes, data and analytics, and technology. So please take some time and go through this. And also the link is available for you to read through the whole paper. As I talked about earlier on, this is the 5 key critical team roles that FP&A board and FP&A members have developed and worked over in the last few years. It is also adapted somehow from Mark Gandhi. But what we're seeing now more, a lot of emphasis on the FP&A architect, the FP&A data scientist, but also the softer skills like the storyteller, the influencer. So what is these new skill set that we're talking about, the data architect? So knows the architecture, knows the link between all of this, and it's also intersection between IT and finance. The data scientist, or the FP&A data scientist, is the link between data scientists and finance. They do all of these good stuff that data science do, but of course they have also got the knowledge of what the business does as well. So it's a very good link between the two. And of course, we see the softer skills coming into play very much more than anywhere else now. So the storyteller, it's all about storytelling. It's all about influencing without authority as well. So we've got to bear all of that in mind going forward. One last slide from myself around the I and the T-shaped team. So as before, if you look at the top part of that diagram, we've got the architect, data scientist, analyst, storyteller, and influencer. So the team were built of specialists. What we're finding now more and more, if you look at the second half of the diagram, is that the teams are made differently. So there will be 1 or 2 specialists, but also those specialists will know what the others do, or have a good understanding as to what the analyst, the architect, the storyteller, the influencer does, and also show trait of that and knows how to do these things as well. So the more we seem to be moving towards the T-shaped skills or team. Moving on, so that's all from me. I would like to quickly reintroduce you to James Haley, who is VP Finance, European CFO at Nidec. And today, James will talk to us about FP&A teams and roles. So James, whenever you're ready, over to you.
Thank you very much, Hans. Yes, we'd like to get stuck into the slides. we're going through some of the challenges first, and then the roles that will help us to be successful with those challenges as well. So obviously the world is a busy place in terms of the crises that we're having currently. I'm getting news today that because of certain aspects of the COVID problem, we're under pressure in some of the countries now again. This is obviously a disruption that we thought we had gone through, but now we'll have to get back out and do a lot of different activities now online as well, rather than visiting different countries. So this also leads to a lot of organizational disruption. We've also suffered in some of our businesses with some benefits, but also adverse business performance. Also, you may have noticed a lot of different supply chain procurement demands. This is putting a massive strain on forecasting. If you're dealing with lots of raw materials, steel, copper, etc., you're probably experiencing the same thing. So our teams then have to, not just FP&A teams, but controlling teams in general, are being forced to reanalyze, change forecasts, do lots of variance analysis, and also even to change investment plans as well to deal with that. So we're being faced with a lot of those challenges. On the next slide, we're going to have a look at quickly some of the results of that. So one of those elements of that is it's really firefighting, I would call it. We're doing a lot of firefighting in our different businesses. Our FP&A teams then are tasked with helping the businesses and to track a lot of these different parts that are going on, i.e. we're doing lots of normalization. What could it be with and without COVID? Or if also because of those price changes, we're really having to rejig a lot of different activities as well. Naturally, everybody's, as a result of any kind of downturn, you're also looking for cost savings, opportunities to save money, cash also, and you have to do that. What we're finding also is that there's a real grab for talent as well out there in the market too. So we're having challenges keeping people and also training people as well. So because of the storm of activity, you generally forget about training, but I think it's vital that we do keep the training up as well. So we'll come on to that later on in the presentation as well. So if we can move to the next slide, we're just going to go. These are my spin on the roles, because we don't necessarily have huge teams of people, but we would have different roles with different people playing a part in that. And some people have dual roles as well within my organization as well. So I think first and foremost, as we approach some of the issues, technology plays a big part in this, and therefore we're getting more technology centric. We're in an industrial environment, and we mightn't be as advanced as some of the companies, the large companies in the industrial space, but we're catching up. But in order to do that, we need to leverage technology. So naturally, the technology on its own is sometimes good, but it's not going to be great. So we need some experts to help us with that, and they're going to help us really to leverage different ERPs, CRMs, and also the business intelligence tools. There's many different business intelligence tools out there, but sometimes you need an expert to really help you to leverage those tools as well. There's no point really implementing different tools if we're not able to leverage them, but also more importantly, get the different FP&A people in the different teams to be able to utilize and maximize their effect as well. Visualization also, because we're doing constantly calls, we don't really have too many live meetings momentarily. So, you know, over the last two years, we've really had to focus on getting people engaged on the whole visualization as well. We're forced to, not forced, but we're being pulled into lots of different meetings where also language plays a big part. We're an international company. English is the main language, However, not everybody's speaking English to a very high level. So we do have to use the visualization then to help with that aspect of the communication as well. So the numbers, the graphs, etc., it really helps them to do that. And if we have experts doing that, it takes a lot of the pain out of that preparation as well. The negotiator as well, sometimes this is maybe myself or other people at the higher end of the controlling and FP&A teams, where as we get through different processes or we're asked to do new and more interesting visualizations, but also in-depth analysis, we also need to be conscious of the fact that we can't do everything in maybe the next day or the days. Sometimes things take, not just a couple of hours to turn around, but certain processes could take days, weeks, months to implement. And we need to really work with our management on that to manage expectations, but also then to allow the teams to have enough time to do things properly. Because the last thing you want to do is do things incorrectly, badly communicate things, people get confused and frustrated, and we want to avoid that at all times. So, however, I think these are, obviously we have the traditional roles as well, but I see these as key in the current environment as well. So on the next slide, we'll just have a look at the different solutions. So obviously there is some investment in technology, be it more business intelligence tools, or even the technology that we use for conference calls, etc. as well. So it's different types of technology, but it really helps to bridge the gap sometimes as we're going through COVID and the rest of the ensuing crises that we're being faced with currently as well. Managing expectations, because teams are at the limit, it's really important that management understand that. However, we need to work within that, and sometimes we need additional resources, temporary resources. But I think the third point is also very important, that we need to help the people to reskill, to retrain in this environment, so that they are not isolated and also not feeling that they're not able to achieve to the best of their ability as well. So these are things I really think are really at the forefront and will help us to succeed in this difficult environment. So I hand it back to you, Hans, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Hey, James, thank you very much. Great presentation. I think for me, looking through very initially the 5 skill sets that we talked about, you've brought in another one there. Well, some could argue it's part of the 5, but the negotiator, which is an excellent new sort of skill set now that we're looking to move our team on forward. So thank you very much for sharing your case study, your example. Very insightful indeed. If I may ask the other panelists to join us now and give us a little bit of more insight into James' presentation. If I can start with you, Scott, please.
Yeah, so a lot of great points. Maybe for me, I fully recognize your challenges with supply chain. The other thing that stuck out was your last point on reskilling your employees. So as we move through the technology chain, we really need to make sure that the employees come along with us. I thought that was a great point today.
Thank you very much, Scott. If we move on to Bartosz, your comments, please.
Yes, I actually pinpointed the visualization expert as I think someone very important in the team, especially with the wave of new systems and new digital possibilities basically to analyze the data. I think it becomes more and more important that we have someone in the team who can clearly and succinctly formulate the message and communicate with non-finance people.
Thank you, Bartosz. And finally, Eva, your comment, please.
Yeah, Hans, this is Eva. Of course, I look a little bit at with a technology eye to the discussion, which I really like, James. And what intrigues me is you talk about forecasting and planning. That's one, I would say, area. And you also talk about visualization, which we understand as typically BI. And I think it would be wonderful if you could merge those two, bringing BI and planning together in one environment. And I think I'm going to touch a bit on it later on, Hans, but the latest technology allows that. And that is of course, super efficient. And but great insight, James. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, panelists, for your comments. And James, thank you very much for an excellent presentation. Let us now kind of move on and look at what our audiences think of in terms of polling question, and find out what do they think is the most important role within their organization at the moment. So ladies and gentlemen, if you can vote, please. And the question goes like this. So what role do you think is the most important FP&A role for the future of your organization? First option, is it the analyst? Is it the architect? Is it the data scientist? Is it the influencer? Or is it the storyteller? So I repeat again, is it A, analyst, B, architects, C, data scientist, D, influencer, and E, storyteller? If you can vote, please, that will be excellent. Analyst, architect, data scientist, influencer, or storyteller. I am now going to close the voting, and I will be sharing it shortly. So what can we see? 5% say the analyst, 9% say architect, 24% say the data scientist, 25% influencer, and 36% the storyteller. James, if I can invite you back to come and give us a little bit of insight as to what we're seeing here, please.
Yes, I think this is a good spread of what is important for the future. Definitely, I have that in my experience as well. The data scientist, very important. Also the influencer, and most definitely the storyteller, because that kind of brings everything together. But also you do need to have the basis before you can tell the story as well. So I think this visualization helps that too. To also help to tell the story, but you do need a very good FP&A person to be able to tell that story properly as well.
Absolutely spot on there. You know, I really see the importance of the data scientist in terms of bringing data to life. You know, all the hidden drivers that we can't find as you know, by ourselves, and then of course the storyteller and the influencer. So thank you very much for that. Let us now hide that. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for voting. And let us move on to our next session. Before that, a quick reminder, please send your questions via the chat box. So our next presentation will be from Scott Campbell, who's head of Digital Center of Excellence at Philips. And Scott will take us through his journey and implication for FP&A teams. So Scott, over to you when you're ready.
Yep, thanks, Hon. Let's go to the first slide. Talk a little bit about where we've gone from at Philips in our FP&A organization. So traditionally, we've been a COE structure focused on our business partners, so our commercial space, the business, the functions, manufacturing. So really focused towards those business functions. We've also then had a mirrored global business services center that then helps support those structures. So that's traditionally how we've been set up. So if we go to the next slide, in the last sort of 12 months, we've then pivoted towards more of an end-to-end view, where we really view that the process, as we move to a digital world, that really the process needs to be right. Otherwise, the rest of it doesn't work. So we reconfigured the group a bit, where we talk about processes of directives and rules flowing into the digital space, and that's really the space that I lead. So here we have a collection of system experts, data scientists, BI tool owners, really that create the infrastructure. You know, the architect maybe from the data slide before. We've then pulled our analysts that cover common topics from the wheel of the COE into this global analytics team, where we've now looked at common topics to create this story. So instead of having the commercial team look at their results and the business results, the business team look at their results, we've pulled those common analysis into a core team to create one holistic story, create the insights, and then pass it on to our customer facing, or in the terms that you use, maybe the storytellers and the influencers that can then deliver that message to our business partners and our customers within the company. So if we go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about how we set up the digital and the global analytics team. So, traditional finance, we talk about problem solving, number crunching, backward-looking reporting. Everything is built in Excel. And we really want to pivot towards what we call our North Star, which is digital finance, where we're talking about data savviness, people that can storytell, talking about analytics and not reporting. And then how do we use technology to do that modeling? And again, I think traditional finance will never step away from Excel completely, but how do we use the system more effectively? And so how we've done this is we have a really strong HR department that talks about strategic workforce planning. And here we started small. 2-3 years ago, we hired our first data scientists. And in strategic workforce planning, we like to talk about things like build, buy, and borrow. We didn't have data scientists in the team. We went out on the market and we hired data scientists that had really strong data science skills, and we taught them the business and finance. And we started our first projects helping specific businesses and that kind of stuff. As we move now into the current future, we've onboarded additional data scientists. We're starting to run key FP&A projects with those data scientists. The next stage in our journey is really what James talked about is really retraining your team. So this idea of building capability, and we want to move those traditional FP&A teams towards really a hybrid model between understanding data science, being able to use the digital tools, but then still having a core FP&A background. And then, of course, you're always going to have your traditional storytellers and influencers, which don't need to be data scientists. They need to be able to translate that and tell the story to the businesses. So the last component is borrows. So when we need process experts to understand the end-to-end process, we borrow those from the business. We bring those into our business process team to really help define the process. So we think holistically we'll continue to move along this journey to then move our entire FP&A team into this digital finance world. Now, if we go to the last slide, I'll talk a bit about sort of the practical stuff we've been doing. And we do have some early results. We're starting small. We're setting up the organization. We're using our internal planning and reporting system. So we have a system that gives us actuals. We have this idea of connected planning. We're using our data scientists with our key FP&A analysts and business partners to have those company insights plus machine learning to actually create our first pilots within what we call digital driver-based planning, which is adding machine learning algorithms to create the margin insights on our cost drivers. So taking trusted supply chain planning, adding machine learning for the cost to then give us our margin planning. And again, we've broken through with our first pilots this year. Next step is to really put that into the process. The final step is we've taken our planning and reporting. We've actually created a suite of digital dashboards, which then our global analytics team can create the insights, can start that storytelling. And that's the next big breakthrough we're looking for, is how do we get our organization to move away from PowerPoints and Excel towards being able to consume digitally the same information. But we are, again, creating a suite of those digital dashboards to take the team on that journey. That's what I wanted to share. Maybe, Hans, in a couple of years, you can invite me back to tell you more about how we did. Back to you.
Scott, thank you very much. Fantastic presentation. I think, for sharing your digital journey. And I really like the previous slide where you talked about build, buy, and borrow. And that's how you expanding that team. You can't just do everything internally. You've got to look at external, but you externally outside of FP&A as well as externally for the skill sets you don't have. So thank you very much for that. If I may ask my fellow panelists to join us now and give us some insight as well. that would be great. James, if I may start with yourself, please.
Yeah, I think it's really excellent, and it's a very big step to go. But obviously, it's something that a lot of companies must tackle now as well. So I think this is a great insight into that digital transformation, and I think we'll all benefit from hearing this to get a better insight into how to approach it anyway. And probably we will also need some experts helping us either internally or externally with the transformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. Bartosz, your comment, please.
Yeah, I liked very much sort of the, I would say, long-term approach to team planning, team design that Scott showed, right? I mean, you said you work with HR to look at, several years into the future, how to design and build your team, take into consideration, the technology development, how the business develops, and I think that's very important to understand. The changes that we need to do in our teams to make them more efficient will not happen overnight or in one budget session, right? It's great to have that multi-year perspective in front of you.
Thank you, Bartosz. And finally, Eva, any perspective from yourself?
Well, what I like, Scott, is that you spoke about global, a global organization that overlooks everything. And what stood out for me is that you, in the second sentence, talked about end-to-end. And I am very strongly convinced that end-to-end is the only solution that can work in a global organization, going from the ask to the analyze to simulating, the actual planning, and then you get into the visualization and monitoring step. And if you can close that loop, which you seem to have succeeded in, I think that is super strong and super powerful. So thanks for sharing, Scott.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, panelists, and thank you, Scott, for a great presentation. And we'll definitely have you back in the next couple of years to learn about the journey that you've gone through and where you're heading. So thank you for that. Let us now move on and listen to what our audiences have got to tell us about some challenges they're facing within their organization, especially to do with remote working. So if you can vote, please. And the question goes like this: what is the biggest remote work challenge at the moment? Of course, COVID and over the last couple of years. Communication issues and being out of the loop. What about interruption? Second. Third, loneliness and lack of human interaction. Prioritizing work, working too much. Of course, this is going to carry on with now that we've got COVID and people working from home a lot more, and even in the future. So first option, communication issues and being out of the loop. Second, interruption. Third, loneliness and lack of human interaction. Prioritizing work, and working too much. If you can vote, please, I'll give it another few seconds, and then I'm going to close the session right now. And I'm going to share the answers with our audiences. So 47% said communication issues and being out of the loop. 21% loneliness and lack of human interaction, 2% prioritizing work, and 30% working too much. Scott, if I may ask you to come in and give us your opinion on what we're seeing here, please.
Yeah, really interesting. Interesting. I recognize them all. I think in our teams, the communication within the closest team, I think, has gotten stronger, but the connection to the rest of the organization, I think, is, as being out of the loop, I think is quite relevant. The other one I recognize is working too much, right? I hear a lot of colleagues that have replaced their commuting time with work, which then means that they stretch their day even further. So yeah, I recognize the challenges for sure.
Thank you very much for that. I'm a bit surprised that interruption is at 0% there, in the sense of course, a lot of us are working from home, and there's a bit of a private life, but surely we are able to manage this, which is why it's 0. So thank you very much for that, Scott. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for voting. Let me remind you that please keep sending your questions. Lots of exciting Q&A to come at the end of it. We will answer most of them. Those we can't, we will of course answer via email to yourself. So please send your questions through. So our next session is from Bartosz Oboszki, who's Director FP&A at Esko, and Bartosz will be talking to us about how FP&A teams are adapting to the new normal. Bartosz, over to you whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Hans. Once again, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I've been managing distributed teams actually for quite some time now, probably some 10 to 15 years. However, obviously with the pandemic, a totally new reality kicked in, a totally new situation. And I wanted to share some insights and share some best practices that helped me and my team go through this period. So I wanted to start actually on the next page to pinpoint what it actually means, the new normal. What is it? And obviously lots of things changed. But I think when I sort of reflected about this, I think at the core of the change is the move to a unsupervised environment. Because obviously in the past, I think lots of us were used to working with shared service centers, with centers of excellence, basically with teams that were based in different countries, locations, but it was all office-based, right? And now with the change to home office, we move to a sort of unsupervised environment. And what's so challenging about this? I feel the lack of direct supervision is creating the feeling of uncertainty among managers about how their teams perform, about the productivity. And you know, in the past, I think managers were used to a situation where they could very easily check in on their teams, right? Just walk across to their desks and see how they're doing. Now, obviously, this possibility is gone. So I wanted to sort of to reflect on the shift that is needed to manage this on my next page, which basically shows that what worked for us is a move from something I would call old school input management to new school output management. So basically, in an office-based environment, what you could control is the input, right? The effort that goes in. Just make sure you check people's attendance. People are there in the office from 9 to 5 or whatever time you work. Make sure the screens are on, they don't serve too much, and by definition, lots of work will get done. Obviously, with the loss of the office, these old tools won't work anymore. So you have to replace them with something. And I found that this something is actually output management, controlling the effect that comes out. And in a nutshell, that sort of boils down, I guess, to two items: to breaking down daily work, even the repetitive work, into clear milestones, and then scheduling regular team progress reviews. And these two things create a small framework, which actually is something tangible that managers and the teams can manage and can use to coach performance. Obviously, to facilitate that, you'd have to work a little bit on communication, create forums for, I would say, targeted communication. So it should be focused on the team and on the project. And obviously, I think you should use all the great technology that we have, all the Zooms, the GoToWebinars, Teams of the world. Obviously, also with the work from home and with the somehow overlap of private and professional life, clear rules when people should be available, for team collaborations, for calls, meetings, and when the other part of the time where they can use for their individual work or the work-life balance. So actually, my next page would bring me then to a conclusion that the FP&A managers might be becoming actually kind of a project managers. They would be reorganizing their daily work into smaller projects, which would be then easier trackable and manageable for the whole team. They would be applying project management tools to make this structure work. It would build actually communication frameworks, etc., etc. And obviously, how strong and how rigid this whole structure of milestones, check-ins, follow-ups, and communication needs to be would definitely depend on the maturity of the team, right? If you have a team of new joiners, of junior contributors, you'll need more of this. If you have a team of mature professionals, a team that has grown together, you'll probably need less. And speaking about new joiners, actually, on my next page, I wanted to address one more important issue that I think comes to life with the change of the environment to the sort of the remote work. And the question that emerges is basically, how do we embed new joiners, new team members into a team? How do we share these team spirit, the company values, but also how do we onboard them? And there I found that actually three things that work most. First of all, the onboarding plans that we, well, always had, but I guess they always were a little bit general, a little bit just a general framework. I think what needs to happen now is they need to be more targeted, more made to measure. So basically they need to pinpoint and clearly describe what's the role and function of that person, how it fits into the role in the team, but also in the broader company. So also, I think, identify the key contacts within the company, the key skills, the key trainings to take, really sort of make sure that after going through the whole plan, after, I don't know, 1 or 2 months, this person will be embedded and included in the team. The second thing I think that helps is early inclusion in projects. And there I would say the main goal would not be to get another pair of hands helping with the projects. It would rather be, to create an opportunity for first-hand understanding of the processes, building the network of the new joiners, and basically creating a bigger, better opportunity for them to connect with the new company. And the other 2 points that I have here on the slide is more of a soft skills, soft thing. What I found in the environment where the communication is a little bit different than usually, what helps is, for example, small video sessions, so small video messages from top management that would explain the direction of the company, any changes that are coming, or basically the top of mind things of the top management. So I think that helps. And what I also think is that the communication that in the past used to happen by itself or automatically needs now to be replaced with basically intentional and planned opportunities. The communication that tended to happen on its own, like in the lunchroom or in the hall room, now needs to be replaced with basically targeted and pre-planned sessions. Which brings me actually to my final conclusion slide, that what it takes for the FP&A manager to thrive in this new situation is basically to shift the role. I'm thinking with all of this, with the additional requirements to manage the team remotely, I put it here as a question: is the FP&A manager becoming now a emotionally intelligent project manager? That is something that I would like to investigate in the future a bit more, and that's where I think the direction FP&A and general finance management will be going. Thank you very much. Hans, with this, back to you, back to the studio.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Bartosz. Great presentation. For me, another key skill set you've brought to the table is around project management. So is that something that we're looking for new people within FP&A to lead and then become project managers? So absolutely great there. But also you talk about managing from input to output, and all of these because of what's been happening, because of how we move from working into offices, from offices and working from home because of COVID, And that's probably going to be the new normal going forward for all of us anyway. So thank you for bringing all of these to light. Let me ask the fellow panelists to come and join us and to give us a little bit more insight on or anything they would like to share around Barto's presentation. So if I may start with yourself, James, please.
Yes, yeah, really excellent. I think it gives us a lot of insights into really what people are facing. I think the output management is a really clever way of dealing with some of those challenges where people are working remotely. I really like that. And also then, as you said, to break things into a project, and also then to onboard people in a more professional way as well. So very, very encouraging and very good for everybody, I think, to understand that.
Thank you, James. Scott, comments from yourself, please?
Yeah, no, I think again, interesting to focus on the work breakdown structure, the short deliverables, sort of daily management stuff. You know, I hope that stuff carries over if we ever get back to more of a hybrid situation. You know, half working from home, half in the office. I think a lot of those new skills will carry over. The other thing we are struggling with a bit is how do you then recognize as a remote manager? That also becomes difficult to not only onboard and stay connected, but then the recognition of the day-to-day stuff also becomes a bit more challenging. So that's also, I think, something all of us need to focus on as well in the new world.
Thank you, Scott. And Eva, what is your perspective on what Bartos has just shared with us?
Yeah, recognize it immediately, Bartos. Yeah, and we see it in our own organization as well. Yeah, days get very, very long globally if you work from home. One of the things that might help is that again, modern technology allows for very deep collaboration in the software, meaning that, you know, I start working on a thing, and at a certain moment at the end of the day, my colleague can just gently take over, and it's even fun. Yeah, you can together work on things, and you know that might be a way out. So I think again, technology could be partially an answer to your question, Bartos.
Thank you very much, guys. A great insight into Bartos's presentation, and Bartos' great presentation. Of course, we're facing a lot of challenges at the moment with COVID, with working from home, and with having team dispersed, not just within the same country, but multinationally as well as anything, and having to work from home. So thank you for sharing that with us. Let us now look at what our audiences are doing in terms of team synergy, really. So please, if you can vote, and this one is around team synergy. So we want to know what is the biggest barrier at the moment to team synergy within your organization? Is it a lack of alignment around goals? Is it different mindsets? Is it internal competitiveness? Is it knowledge deficits? Is it poor listening and communication skills? So if you can vote, please, what is the biggest barrier to team synergy within your organization at the moment? Is it a lack of alignment around goals? Is it different mindset? Is it internal competitiveness? Is it knowledge deficit, poor listening and communication skills? And how have these changed, of course, over the last couple of years is what we're looking to see here. So if I give you another few seconds to vote, is it A, lack of alignment around goals, B, different mindsets, C, internal competitiveness, D, knowledge deficits, or poor listening and communication skill? I'm now going to close it, and I'm going to share it with our panel. So 29% of people have said it's a lack of alignment around goals. 33% are talking about different mindsets. 4% around competitiveness. 10% knowledge deficit, and 24% around poor listening and communication skills. Bartosz, can I ask you for some comments on what we're seeing here, please?
Sure. You know, it really resonates a lot with me. I think the different mindsets is something I would sort of put my vote on as well. And actually, you know, in the past, I've recognized that sometimes in teams, and I've been trying to solve this with running team sessions. focused on, you have these MBTI and FIRO-B models that would basically try to help explaining why people behave the way they do. And what I found in the past is that this really helps a lot in bringing the teams together, because basically they start understanding the mindsets of the other people and why they react how they do. So I think that might be a potential solution for this pain.
Thank you very much, Bartosz, and amazed to see 4% internal competitiveness. I think we're probably seeing a lot less of that because of where we are at the moment and working from home, etc. That that's kind of gone down a little bit. So
definitely, Hans, if I can just jump in, I think the internal competitiveness really sort of went down with the work from home environment. That rings a bell as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for voting. Please keep sending your questions. We've got an exciting Q&A session coming shortly. Now we're going to move to our last presenter for today, which is Iver van der Zaan, who's Vice President at SAP. And today, of course, Iver is going to take us through how technology can help build those winning teams. Iver, ready? Over to you whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Hans. I'm perfectly ready. So thanks for having me. This is Ivar. I'm from Belgium, and yeah, so maybe a little also about my personal vision on finance transformation and also how we look at things. Yeah, so one of the things that we carefully observe and that we see with our customers all the time is that there is a vast amount of time spent on the collection of data. Getting the data right, wrangling it in the way that we want to consume it and what have you, which you see on the slide on the left-hand side, and which is not very efficient, of course, because what we really want to work on is on the task that add value, yeah, analyzing the data, understanding it, bringing it to better plans, better forecasts, and what have you. So really working with the insight and not spending the time on collecting them. So that is where technology is really focusing on automating that collection and wrangling of data and really allowing you to spend the time on the valuable things, being the real-time insights. And I underline real-time because we don't want to have latency. We don't want to copy data. We want to work real-time with the data. But one of the trends, which you see on the right-hand side, is that modern technology even goes a step further, Hans. Yeah, so we call that advanced analytics, where we use machine learning, artificial intelligence, that starts analyzing for you, that starts helping, even predicting your plans for you. And we do that with very, very strong results already, which we will talk a little bit on, which makes that not only work in a more efficient way, but you even gain additional time spending the things on what really matters, and is understanding and working with your insights, not collecting them. And maybe, Hans, on the next slide, we can see a little bit the things that we unfortunately still observe. Sometimes we call it with a little joke, the problem called Excel. Still many organizations do their complete planning, not only their financial planning, using spreadsheets. And spreadsheets are super flexible. I use them myself, but they have quite a number of issues. Yeah, so think about consolidating things. If you do a certain grain and you want to consolidate later on to a higher level, that can become very, very complex. Even more important, think about the governance and the trust in the data. I can change anything in an Excel, very easy. I go in a cell, I type over something and it's changed. Yeah, I have a new plan. So do you want to have that? And that is something we still unfortunately see with a lot of companies. We understand it, but the good news is that I believe technology is now there to really safe lock, I would say, that governance and the trust in the data. And on the next slide, we see a little bit on how these things could look and what they lead to. Yeah, so if we don't move into modern technology areas, yeah, we will lack the really value-driven focus on the things that really matter. Yeah, leading with indicators, working with indicators, and create actionable insights out of them. If we wouldn't move to modern technology, we wouldn't have the transparency that we need and the ability to work with common dimensionality. And you might say, oh, that's a lot of wording, either common dimensionality, transparency. But believe me, this is all about governance, consistency. Think about you have planning in every department with different detail levels, and that all needs to be consolidated and work over a number of common dimensions in your organization, products, customers, what have you. Yeah, and as such, working into this really cost efficient and effective way that can only be done with modern technology. And I'm honestly convinced about that statement that I just made. Well, building up such a modern system starts on the next slide, where we can see a little bit what all those elements are all about. What I first, of course, need is a single platform that allows me to ask and analyze my core data, which you see in the center on the right-hand slide. My finance data, my strategic data, my expense type of data. I want to have that live, governed in a core system that allows me to access that data consolidated in the way that I want. But next, if you go one step further, Hans, then you would see that I need more than that. Yeah, so I have probably not only my financial data, but planning is way more than only my finance. I have my sales planning, HR planning, purchase planning, marketing planning, what have you. Most of them all have their individual planning aspects that I all want to consolidate and drive and bring together. So I need, again, a single system that in a governed way, real time, is able to interact with all those plannings, consolidate them, and even drive forecast from them. And then I get really to that closing loop mechanism that I already used in some of the talks we had with the other colleagues presenting over here. What I want to start with is I want to ask the data, analyze it, the BI component, and then very important, I want to play with it. What if I change that? What would be the result? And that drives in the end my planning mechanism, which the technology can handle for me, which I then can actualize, visualize if you want, and go back to my monitoring process. You see centrally on the left-hand side, a utterly important element in that whole planning process, which we call the collaboration. I want to have workflow in there. I want to have delegation in there. I want to collaborate with people, say, hey, if I change this, to what could that lead? Well, this is what modern technology today can bring, and what is super relevant, and what I believe brings the efficiency and the quality on insights that we are discussing today. Hans, if you go to the next slide, then you can already see how those two models come together. Yeah, you saw where we started today that most of the organizations still struggle a lot with the operations handling, the wrangling and the collecting of data. And what we really want to do is work with automated systems that real time take that wrangling for me and allow me to go even one step further and use those artificial intelligence technology to even start predicting things. And you might say, hey, what does that mean? How could that look like? Well, I brought two small videos, Hans, on the next slide, where you can see that actually happening. So, of course, the first thing I'm doing is I need to track a number of activities. And you typically do that, I would say, in a calendar-based or activity-based element. And this is a sample, it's sample data, where you see all those individual validations and tracking activities being plotted, and you want them in a kind of see it as a kind of a Gantt setup, where you say, hey, I want to run that tracking first or that validation first, and that needs to trigger automatically when it passes the next one. And that is what you see in modern technology happening on the screen right now, where you lock down all those interdependencies and automate that for you, which we didn't have in most of the cases using Excel or what have you. Yeah? You also heard me talking about the future, where we said, hey, can we use modern technology, machine learning capabilities to even predict my plans? Well, also for that, Hans, on the next video, I brought a little example and it goes super fast. But what you see on the screen over here is a dashboard where I have my Q1 actuals in the center of the screen. But on the right-hand side of the screen, you see that I don't have my Q2, Q3, and Q4 numbers. Well, I'm going to train this model, use artificial intelligence to start predicting those quarters. I define my grain. Yeah, I train the model with a single click. It starts training now, and it's going to tell me what is the closest looking forecast look like. Yeah, so I use my MAPI indicators, mean average percentage errors, to check the quality of my forecast, which you see on the screen right now. It goes super quick, but I just want to show you what modern capabilities can do. And if I accept that, give it a name, and just refresh my data, look on the right-hand side with the yellow colored elements, I can just predict my forecast. Well, there was a case on the next slide, Hans, where we have applied that, and this is a pharmaceutical company that you might know, who were taking several weeks to do their 4 billion financial forecast, taking several weeks. They use now this predictive forecast modeling, and that reduces that time to even 2 hours, yeah, which is still a lot of time. But if I compare multiple weeks to 2 hours, I think we did pretty well. And this is a very nice case, which I'm very happy to talk to you in a bit more detail, but it shows you what modern technology can do, and it proves this is not future anymore, but this is actually happening with a number of customers that I'm working with. Hans, back to you.
Eva, excellent presentation. Thank you very much. There's quite a few things there. We can't go through every single thing in detail. I think you've shown by just sharing with us things around spreadsheet and how important it is to move away from that, then to start to look at how you build that platform. And of course, finally, you've shown us how predictive analysis and forecasting is done. The power of technology is so huge, and this is what is going to take us away from all the mundane activities into value-added stuff. So thank you very much for that, and live examples as well was really helpful. Let us now listen to our panelists and see what they thought of the power of technology and how that can help us achieve better things for our team. So if I can start with yourself, James, please.
Yes, very interesting. Sorry, my camera's not working because of connection issues, but yeah, I thought it was very insightful. It's obviously a great advantage to anybody that can implement this as well, but I think it really shows what's available out there, and it's a real opportunity for people and organizations to leverage technology in a very linked in way as well, so that everything is combined. And I think your first slide said it, Ivor, in that you really need to be adding value to the process, developing things, and also automating everything as well. So very, very, very important. And I hope sometime in the future to be able to use that type of technology myself. It would be very great for our organization as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, James. Scott, if I may come to yourself, please.
No, I mean, a fantastic presentation. I think the part that I really resonates with me is your idea of connected planning or integrated business planning, where the further you can expand that data set in one tool, the more powerful your analytics and your predictive stuff can be, so that having all that data in one place, operationally coming together, I think is our North Star. So really powerful once you get that all together in one place. So thanks a lot for the show and tell.
Thank you very much, Scott. Bartosz, can I come to you finally?
Yes, Eva, I liked very much the chart that you've shown at the very beginning, where the sort of automation makes the operational bit of the finance work go down and allows to expand, the time and effort you spend on insights, both backward and forward looking. And I think that's one of the key functions of technology, because in any business you keep on generating new reports and new sort of analysis that you want to run, but if you don't have the proper tools, you and your team will basically burn their time just doing this, getting the numbers, and you'll run out of time to analyze them. So I think it's it's crucial that you have the right tools and systems to basically automate all of this and be able to spend your time on value adding, on forward-looking activities, on these kind of things. I like this very much.
Absolutely well said there, Bartosz. Is how do we move away from doing the mundane and the non-value add activities into more value add? And one of the key ways is absolutely technology. And technology is, of course, going beyond in terms of helping us story tell as well as anything else, as Eva's very nicely shown to us. So thank you very much for your comments. And Eva, great presentation. Thank you very much. Let us now move on and listen to what our audiences have to tell us about collaborative technology that they're using. So if I may launch the next polling question. So ladies and gentlemen, if you can vote, do you currently use modern collaborative technology, as we've seen in Eva's case, probably not as sophisticated, but for FP&A technology? Yes, we do. No, we do not, but plan to implement very shortly. Third, no, we do not, and do not plan to implement in the future. If you can vote, please. Yes, we do. No, we do not plan. No, we do not, but plan to implement shortly. Second option. Third option, no, we do not, but do not plan to implement anything at all anytime future. So if I can ask you to vote, please, I'll give it a few more seconds. So again, the option are yes, we do. No, we do not, but have plans to implement soon. Or final option, no, we do not, and have no plans to implement anything like this at all. So if I now may close the poll and share with you what we're seeing here. So 27% said, yes, we do. Fantastic. 59% say, we do not at the moment, but we have plans to implement shortly. And 15% say, no, there's absolutely no plan to do anything like this. Eva, if I can ask you to join us and give us some comments as to, is this something you expected?
Yes, Hans. Yeah, I did expect that, and I'm going to be a big boy. I know if I show it like we just discussed, of course, I use a few samples, and I know that in reality things can be quite complex. Yeah, but the good news is that if I count quickly, I think we are over 86% of people who either use modern technology or consider using it. I think it's almost a sine qua non. Yeah, so things are getting so complex, so integrated, so agile. Yeah, I need to respond so quickly to things that you almost have to go to modern technology that work in real time, that provide that collaboration. I see all the links to the issues that my colleagues presented in their cases. So I am not surprised. I also want to say to the audience, if you are not in the yes we do team, don't worry. Yeah, so there's always a way out, and things can also set up step by step by step. You don't have to go big bang. So that's a bit my insight, Hans.
Yeah, absolutely, Eva. Great insight there. Of course, 27% are already using, which is fantastic, and 59% are looking at it and wanting to implement very shortly. I think we need to move the boundary a little bit towards the 15% that, come on, guys, after seeing demonstration, after looking at what others are doing, you really need to start to think about it, because it is going to change the way we do things, absolutely. So thank you very much for that, Eva. Let me hide this. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep sending your questions. We've got a very insightful session of Q&A coming up shortly after our conclusion session. So please keep sending them. We will answer a few today, and the rest will be answered via email. So now is a good time for me to go into key takeaways and conclusion session. And I invite all the panelists to come and join me and give us some insight into what they think are the key conclusions. So panelists, if you can join me on the webcam, please. and we will start once we've got everything by James. James, what would be your concluding point?
Yeah, thanks, Hans. I think basically it's all about technology, leveraging the technology as well, but also facilitating getting the people to understand how to use the technology as well. So like I was saying earlier, it's all about training and facilitating and getting people involved at the right time to leverage the technology to really help to improve FP&A overall and to improve the business partnering with the business as well. So that's my key takeaway for today.
Thank you very much, James. Can we go to Scott, please?
Yeah, James, you stole my thunder a bit. I mean, I'm all in on technology. I think it's the future in almost everything we do. But we need to bring the right people along with us. We need the processes to work. We need someone to run the tooling. And for sure, we need to do that storytelling and help influence the business, because after all, that's what really our job is in FP&A, is to steer the business. So to me, it's the right combination of having the right people and the right technology, and I think we can do wonderful things.
Thank you very much, Scott. Bartosz, your concluding point?
Yes, I think, it is a very challenging time right now, and obviously the pandemic, I think, has basically brought something to surface that was starting there some time ago. The challenges come in many sort of shapes. It's the changing way of working, the remote work. It's the technology that changes in leaps, actually. It is also the generational change in the workforce coming. So I think there's lots of challenges in front of us, but I think the teams and the companies who can manage that well, who can use the positives and somehow neutralize the negatives, and not just close their eyes and stick to the old days, will have a tremendous advantage going forward. They'll have really the upper hand in the coming years and decades probably.
Thank you, Bartosz. And finally, Eva, what will be your concluding point to shout out?
Well, my key takeaway is the attention for FP&A. That is fantastic. With all these leaders in this call, I honestly believe that FP&A is the heart of a number of organization. It is super trendful. We see so many aspects today that Bartosz talked about, and Scott and James. I honestly believe that people are the most important. So I like the talk about the walls, and of course the technology, which is my area, is exactly the asset or the facilitator that can bring that. I also honestly hope that the role of the architect becomes a bit less important, than we have done a good job. But fantastic, super nice. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Hans.
Thank you very much, members. Great insight there in terms of conclusion. I think now it's a good time for us to go into our exciting Q&A bit. Again, I'd like to remind the audience, you can carry on sending your questions. We will answer them definitely via email, those we can't answer today. So please keep sending them, and let us start our Q&A session. And our first question, of course, goes to James. James, you talked about the fourth COVID wave and issue with COVID. How are you readying your team to face the next wave of uncertainty, for example? How would you deal with that?
Yeah, thanks, Hans. Yes. So we are so in some of our locations, we're constantly confronted with COVID anyway for the last 2.5 years. And really, it's about reestablishing the connections. But we're working remotely almost every day. So it's really about reiterating the messages to people as well, and to reconnect where necessary too. But ultimately, we're probably in a good situation because some people have been working remotely throughout the entire time. So for them, there will be really no change with the next wave. And for anybody coming in, it probably will be a new situation that we will have to have additional training, etc., so that they're more comfortable working in this environment. So it's really, like I keep saying, it's about training, onboarding, and also leveraging the technology that we have as well. So communication as well, super important to give people the opportunity to learn. I saw in one of the question and answers that you had earlier, communication seems to be a problem too. So we need to train, we need to give people, I think also you need to give people an opportunity to talk as well. So we're all listening to presentations, but some people need an opportunity or something to get engaged in and to get ownership as well on. So that's how I'm confronting that. I'm getting people involved that may not be involved before. Analysts doing some talking, doing some presenting as well. It's the simple things that keep people engaged, and we really need to keep people engaged and not let them be isolated or lonely at home. You really got to get them involved, get them on the camera, get them talking, and I think it's positive for everybody then.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. I think we've seen here a great example and quite a few examples today of, what have we done through COVID? What have we learned already? How have we adapted our team to kind of face these challenges? Because, it's going to keep coming. It's COVID, it's something else. We're going to have to adapt. And a good example from James there too, the team is ready, but it's more about, when new people come in, how do we onboard them to get into that same mindset, team spirit, etc. Thank you for that, James. Our second question goes to Scott. Scott, great presentation. You talked about, how you're setting the team up in the digitalized journey. You talked about buying, building, and borrowing. How do you go about deciding how to or where to spend that? How to buy, how to build, where to borrow from? Can you explain a little bit, please?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think, we're going through this again. Our HR department has a great sort of tutorial that talks about, again, what's your current resource base? What are their strengths when we talk about business partnering and then processing, storytelling. So we did an assessment on the current team. We looked out again into sort of 2025 about what our ambition is on digitalization, and we said what do we need to move the needle there, and then from that creating a sort of a grid as to where do we need to then have the biggest gap and what can we do about it. And then you look within the organization, and if you have the skill set, you borrow it. If you don't, you go out and find it through other ways. That can be interns, that can be gigs, that can be going out in the marketplace and hiring the talent. So I think it's unique to each company and which sort of industry you're in, where you would find those people. But it's really good to sort of take a step back and do that analysis of your team and where you want to take the organization. And then it becomes pretty clear where your opportunities are to raise the bar on certain aspects that you don't have in the organization.
Absolutely, great point there. It's all about analyzing, but also stepping back and thinking, where does the priority lie? And with that priority, how do I go about getting it? Do I have it internally? Do I have it internally but outside of my FP&A or finance team? Or do I have to go and get it from outside? So great answer there. Thank you very much for that, Scott. Our third question, of course, to Bartosz. Bartosz, interesting question here. How do you evaluate team productivity in the new normal? Is there any benchmark or anything you do that you can share with our audiences today? Please.
Well, I think to me the evaluation of team productivity before and after the new way of working just didn't really change. I mean, even before we had our longer term goals and targets, and we had all the repetitive I would say milestones to hit, like the forecasts, budgets, and year ends, but also additional projects or ad hoc requests. And I think this didn't really change, and I think this is really the challenge. The situation, the workplace maybe have evolved, but the The challenge is to keep the same performance as in the prior setup. So I think the benchmark or the evaluation would be if your business, if your internal customers do not feel any difference, any deterioration after you move to the new situation, new normal. That would be my answer.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add that that's a fantastic way of looking at, it's about customer perception, and that doesn't change, and how well you're doing within that sort of scheme of things. So thank you very much for that, Bartosz. And of course, we've got our next question, which is to Eva. Eva, do you have any figures around team effectiveness improving with the implementation of modern technology, or anything you can share around team effectiveness?
Yeah, so there are benchmark figures. So thanks for the question, Hans. So it depends a little bit on how you scope exactly what you want to better. Yeah, so I drew a picture in the ideal world, which I talked about. You have a monitoring aspect. I look back to data. You have a projection aspect. I look forward, planning to data. You have a simulation aspect. And of course, not all the companies I work with take them all three together. So if you take BI, for example, yeah, and the monitoring aspect, the visualization, understanding of data, yeah, modern technology, you easily look at 3-4 times bettering the efficiency if people really use that to its full extent. Yeah, so consolidated reports, that data stewardship governed, that you don't have to check anymore, you can really reach high numbers. If you look at the full closed loop, yeah, so also incorporating planning, for example, planning can be a very cumbersome and very intense exercise. Validation of data, cost allocations, what have you, yeah, it's all those elements. Over there, the numbers get easily to 7-8 times higher if you have a full consolidated planning process in place with data quality checks or what have you. So those are roughly the numbers. And I say on purpose, Hans, roughly. Yeah, so there's no benchmark sticker or something I can put on it, but at least it gives you a little bit of an idea.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Eva, for that great insight. Of course, it's all about improving that, and that's the way to do it, is to bring technology to play so that you can improve the team effectiveness, and then team can go on to do value add stuff together and understand what the business is doing. So excellent there. We've got a little bit of time, so I'm going to field one question to all of the panel. So it's going to be the same question, and I will ask you for two. So what would be your top 2 steps for building high performance team? How do you build a high performance team? Just 2 steps, and if each one of you can build on top of each other, that would be great. James, if you're there, what would be your 2 steps for building a high performance team?
Yeah, I think the team is really, we need to get the right people in. I would really, right now, I would focus on technology, because I think it gets set up for the future. So technology, training, they're my main focuses now.
Thank you very much. Scott, what will be 2 of your recommendations?
Yeah, so yeah, I agree. I think technology and finding the right people. I think team culture still remains, right. We're always going to work in teams, no matter how we work in FP&A. So I think having the right culture with those right hires, I think is an important step. Don't hire a skill set that doesn't fits the rest of the mold. I think that would be one. And again, I think maybe to what Bartosz was saying, right, just to make sure you create a structure to make sure that those teams can be successful. So that would be the next step, is make sure that you're able to connect regularly, measure their success, and help them be successful. I think that would be the next step to build on the previous ones.
Fantastic. Bartosz, what would you like to add?
I think one of the important things is basically a clear role design. So basically, making sure each team member knows how they fit into the team, how they support the business, how they work, sort of fits with the other sort of team members, and also that there's no gray zones in between. I've seen that in the past, and it sometimes kills the team morale when there are things that are not specifically assigned to anyone, and then they're waiting just for someone to pick him up, and the one who picks them up is sort of looked upon maybe by other people. So that's, I think, clear role design is one of the things, and then I think a clear communication within the team and issue resolution. So basically, if there are some misunderstandings, or if there are some issues and challenges, which obviously now with the remote work, I think even more often, you need to have a clear way of addressing these, escalating these, and clarifying these, especially in a remote environment.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Eva, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, for me, it would be, I would ask for mandate, number one, and ownership, number two. And I think mandate, super important. Don't even start if you don't have the mandate from your leadership team. Look what Scott built. Yeah, I don't know that solution in detail, but I've seen enough. He cannot have done that without a clear mandate and a direction and a scope to do that. Second, for me, ownership. So we talked, I believe that the people in the team need to have a very high level of ownership, making it theirs. And we spoke, Hans, a few times about roles, and I am 100% convinced that if you use modern technologies, that those roles within the team constantly change. Yeah, I might be the architect. If the technology is done wise, maybe I'm not so needed anymore, but the technology will lead to new insights and new activities and new things you want to do. So my role might change. And so for me, ownership and mandate would be the two to pick out.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, all of you. We've got some great finishing point on those to conclude our Q&A session. So great points there. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've got further questions, please keep sending them. We will answer them via email. So now we've just got a few concluding slides. So just to let you know that, as our yearly survey we did with FP&A Trends in collaboration with SAP, the link is available there. Very, very insightful. So please go and have a look at that. Lots of stuff that we've talked about today. You can see trends and percentages on there. So please do that. Couple of things for your diary. So what is next? So we've got the Digital Central European FP&A Board on the 7th, where again, we're going to build on what we've spoken about today. So what does that capability look like for the next decade? And finally, something on cash flow for your diary, rethinking traditional approaches, FP&A webinar trends on 9th of December. So please keep that for your diary. It is a good time now to say thank you to our technology sponsor, SAP. A great time to say a big thank you to all of you panelists for great insight, great presentation, and also for answering all of those questions. So thank you very much for that. Also a great time to say thank you to all of the people who attended today, and for them to give us the insight as to what they're doing within their own organization as well. This is how you can keep in touch with us. It is a good time to say goodbye now, but just before going, I would like to remind you, just stay with us for a minute or so and give us your feedback about how well we did, but also what would you like to hear from us in the next session. So ladies and gentlemen, with this concludes our webinar for today. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you had a great and insightful event from your end. So thank you very much for your time. We hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.